Hello everyone, very nice to meet you today, virtually first, but I think it's quite a nice step forward to be able to at least be in a sort of great communication with Klāvs today. He's going to be the first student, and welcome to all our listeners. We have 1 hour now to work on some beautiful pieces by Bach and Haydn, and I'm extremely happy to be here thanks to the Riga Jurmala Academy. Thank you so much for putting all of this together. Thanks to my orchestra also to be in partnership with this great festival. And yeah, I can't wait to share some nice music with you today and talk a bit about details and musical ideas. All right, so Klāvs, you wanted to play some Bach, right? From the 5th Suite?
Yes.
Okay. Did you want to start with the Allemande?
Yes, I do.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Klāvs. I'm very sorry to interrupt you, but we don't have so much time, so I think it's nice if we start talking a bit. Great, bravo, very nice. Just two things I want to talk about. Maybe also for our listeners, it's interesting to know that this one suite, the fifth one, is the only one actually that has a scordatura. In the sixth suite, it's actually another cello with an additional string. There are 5 strings, and in the fifth suite, it's a normal cello, so to say, with 4 strings, but the A string is tuned down to a G. Yeah, and that's my first question. Have you ever tried to play that suite with the tuning?
I tried once.
Uh-huh.
Didn't succeed, and that's why I dropped it.
Okay.
Well, I wanted to learn the whole suite with the standard tuning and
I see. Yeah.
move on.
Yeah.
Experimenting.
Sure. I I like your honesty at least, but it's I think it's, of course, I mean, people have to know that since it's tuned down from a tone, the fingerings are a bit confusing, no? Because everything is slightly different. Actually, since we have so much time now because of this pandemic situation, I think it would be a great challenge for you if you still want to keep trying to play it with with this open G string. I can really encourage you to do it, because it's I think many things in the suite are thought with this tuning. You know, this beautiful chord. And of course, it's maybe a little bit more work, but in the end, you will see that there are many fingerings and chords that are actually easier to catch with this tuning than with the A string tuning, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure you have an edition also with the G string tuning, no?
Yeah.
With the fingerings.
Yeah.
So I can really just encourage you to do it. I think it's really fun actually, and then the sound is completely different also.
Yeah.
Of course, I mean, Bach is a huge universe nowadays. People still play it in the old school style, so to say, with vibrato, and so I'm open to anything actually. But I have to admit, for me personally, it's nice to without using a baroque bow or a baroque cello and so or gut strings. It's still nice for me to try to get closer to this sound, and I think the tuning is quite nice. So that's one thing, and the other thing is now to talk about this Allemande dance. It's we know that in the suite there are 6 movements. The sarabande is the slowest one, and then comes the Allemande. Yeah? It's a very relaxed, a little bit heavy dance, and I really enjoyed your colors, your dynamics, and I thought it was beautiful. I could even hear it with the quality that we have, so it's a great sign, because I guess in real it would sound even nicer and with more dynamic ranges. Yeah. So I was very happy to hear all those dynamics and colors that you did. I think we could still feel the dancing element a little bit more sometimes, So it's interesting because in the prelude you have this element. It's actually an ouverture à la française, yeah? And this rhythm is written like this, but it used to be actually played a little bit more stretched, and it gives something extremely dancing, to it, and that's why, without being, I'm really not a baroque specialist, but the more I go on, the more I get to discover this world, and I think it's actually quite nice to take it also in the Allemande, So this rhythm, maybe not too much. It's really a matter of taste, but really always with a sort of direction, so that the tempo is relaxed and heavy, but you still have all those elements that bring you forward, you know. Otherwise, it might be a little bit, you know, flat, and then we might not be able to represent ourselves how dancers would actually back then dance, you know, on this at the chord, right? So why don't you try from the beginning, and let's experiment a bit if you want to.
Sorry.
Sure.
I actually started out learning it this way. The way you told me just now.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
My teacher said, "No, you stick to the notes. You stick to the sheet music."
Yeah, you see, that's
So, yeah.
that's what I was saying. It's a typical. It's actually the great thing about Bach, you know, is that there are so many ways, and I don't think that anyone is wrong or right, you know. But for my point of view, that's something that I really like, is this dancing element, and you know, so there are many different ways. But maybe you can just try, and then in the end, of course, now you're still studying. But at some point, you will be able to take your own decision anyways. Yeah. Great, very nice. Yeah. So I think it has a nice swing, you know, and now we can
some flow.
Exactly.
Music,
yeah. So I personally very much like it. One more element that we can talk about. There are so many things to talk about in Bach music, of course, and we won't have time to cover everything today. But is also the phrasing element. I think it's very clear to see sometimes when you have one bar phrase, so a rather small one, and then you have 2 bars phrase with a bigger line, and then sometimes you might even have 4 bars phrases, right? So I think that's something that we can also, it shouldn't be decided also in advance or so, but you can see it sometimes really clearly in the music. And I think something important about Bach music is that if we, in those dances, it might be a trap to release, you know, every bar, to have always this motion, which is very nice, but sometimes I think we need a much bigger motion, because I think the music has more to say than 1 bar phrases, you know. So, for instance, in the ends, when you have from here, I would try to, you know, it was almost 3 bars, you know, so I tried to sustain the line. Going to the dominant, you know, very important. So if you release before, then we're back to this 1 bar phrase. And I think after a while it can get a little bit boring, so to say, you know. I think it brings some more interesting elements in the music. So why don't we try once this bar and try to sustain maybe. And now, and then you release at the end maybe, yeah? So that we can really feel the tension of the big cadenza, yeah? Exactly. Good. It's interesting now because we're going to the next big topic with Bach, of course, is vibrato, right? So yeah. you could see it coming, of course. Here also, I'm really open to anything. You know, I think we have a lot of freedom as musicians, thank God. Personally, in Bach, I really try to use most of the expression and musical ideas that I want to have with my bow, you know. And again, I had some time now because we were 4 weeks at home, so I was reading a little bit about you know how Bach was played at the time of Bach, and it does say actually that vibrato was actually only used sometimes in longer in slower movements, right? So here I'm not sure that it's so slow, so I would try maybe this, for instance. If you want to keep the intensity, why don't you try maybe to do it mostly with the bow? So you try to sustain the sound, to keep the intensity without vibrating, you know. Especially if you play, you know, with the G-string tuning, it might be a bit strange to hear vibrated and then open, you know. So it might make sense to have you know, a beautiful cadenza with a very pure sound, very little vibrato or none, and again, that's another door that we are opening about this music. You are free to make your own choices. Personally, I really enjoy this, and as from a more academic point of view, I think it's anyways a very, very good thing to practice Bach almost without vibrato, so that you can really explore all the possibilities of your bow, you know, because we have the tendency to compensate expression or sound or so with the vibrato, and when I'm teaching, you know, Bach especially, I'm always wondering if it is a real will from the student to use vibrato, or if it's more, you know, an easy way to compensate something that's lacking with the bow, you know.
Probably in my case.
Well,
I
would love to know you more to be able to know, but just for me now, just try once just try to sustain the phrase without using vibrato.
Start a bit earlier.
Sure. Exactly. And then maybe just make sure that the D is still going to this chord, you know? That's what I was telling you before. Sometimes we have the bad habit of relaxing all the time, but think about for this end cadenza of the first part, try to have a longer phrase and sustain a little bit more. Exactly. So here, for instance, you see, that would be typically a place where the intonation wouldn't be so problematic. I mean, it has to be tuned well. that's always a bit tricky. But you know, if you use the scordatura tuning, it's so natural, you know. So, so that might be something you would like to enjoy as well, you know. Great. So I think we could, since we don't have so much time, we can go to the Gavotte.
Yeah.
Good. Great. Sorry to interrupt you again. I just want to make sure that we can cover everything you have prepared. Great. Very nice. For me, the whole thing sounds a little bit too short.
Oh.
Yeah, that's, I mean, here again, you know, I don't know if there is a real truth, but still it's interesting. I have here, that's also interesting for the listeners, I guess. You probably know that we don't have the manuscript from Bach's hand for all those 6 suites, right? So this manuscript has disappeared, unfortunately, but we do have different sources. The one that I prefer the most, so to say, is the one from his wife, you know, Ada Magdalena, and I have it here. Do you have the score by any chance?
I do, yeah. No, not the manuscript.
Not the manuscript. Okay, yeah. There is this this Bärenreiter edition. If you are a Bach freak, that could be your next birthday present or Christmas present.
Oh, that's debatable.
So it's, you know, again, this is not. I think it's a good source of inspiration. It doesn't have to be taken, you know, like a Bible or something, but. Still, it's nice to see that I just show it here to the listeners. So this is from Anna Magdalena's, that's her handwriting, and you can see actually in the Gavotte that there are slurs, you know, so it's most of the time it's slurred, and that's why actually I've been used now to work on this Gavotte and to play it that way, and that's why it seemed a little bit too short for me in general. I think it's nice, you know, to have always again this dense feeling, and I think it can be 4 notes slurred, 2 notes slurred, sometimes détaché, you know, as you did, but I wouldn't do it too often, you know. Mm-hmm. So maybe you could consider playing it with the slurs, you know. If you want, I can send you a photo of the manuscript after the lesson. Yeah, I would be glad to do it. What's interesting is that the other manuscripts that we have from there are like 4 or 5, I think, all in all. They don't really match. So again, it's something that's still, you know, a bit with question mark. But this one from Anna Magdalena is the one that I really, you know, consider it with the most affection, so to say. And I think it's nice to. So you still have, because, you know, even if you slurred it, it's still quite short, you know, in the phrasing. So, but why don't you try maybe to add a few more 2 notes slurred?
It's hard.
Yeah, I think it's from here. of course, it's not like a super legato third, but it's more. Yeah? Do you want to try? Good. Yeah. I personally like that better, you know. I think this has, you know, this has something more, I don't know, more lively. Also, this sounded a little bit, I don't know.
A bit robotic, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to find the word sometimes, but I think it has to be extremely elegant, even though it was a dance from the south part of France. I don't know how elegant they were back then in this region, but still, I mean, many question marks, of course. But I think that's one element, and then, of course, I think in these kind of things, it's always nice to talk about, I mean, with Bach, you can talk about colors, about phrasings, about levels, about dynamics. There are so many words that we can use. Personally, I think you could bring this Gavotte to a bit more different levels, so to say. So sometimes, I mean, I like to see that, you know, you have a man and a woman dancing, and then I like to hear the woman's voice, you know, that's maybe a little bit, how should I describe it? You know, just very like charming and high sort of phrasing, and then the guy that's maybe a little bit more, you know, it's very cliche what I'm saying. Actually, I'm sorry, but just just for you. So I'm trying to express myself, but so maybe here, maybe something more feminine, and then at the end, or it could be, because this is maybe too cliche for nowadays, but it could be also, you know, that somebody is dancing alone for a moment, and then the whole group is joining, or something like that. And I think at the end of this phrase, of course, you have this very nice chord, you know, so it brings something extremely, it brings a different atmosphere. And then again, here, for instance, also you could try maybe here less, and then, you know, so that we have different levels. I don't know where you know, I have nothing written in my music. Also, I just try to get inspired when I play it. Sometimes I have plans or ideas that I try to keep, but I think it should always be extremely lively, you know. And also, if you consider it as a dance, you know, there are always steps that are heavier than others, you know, and sometimes it's more like this, and then it goes to the one. So all those different levels, you know, of intensity or of weight could come out more, I think, when you play it. Otherwise, it's a bit too brave, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you want to try?
Well, I don't
from the
know
beginning again?
If I will be able to do it.
Yeah, we just experiment. You know, that's that's why we're here today. Great. Yeah, I think it's already much better. You know, it's you don't actually, now that I see you playing it without the scordatura, I think it's actually quite easy.
It's quite hard, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you don't do the scorda, it's quite hard. Yeah. So, you know, you should really reconsider it, I think, maybe. Yeah.
I will, perhaps.
Great.
Well, after the exam.
Yeah, of course. Well, I wish you all the best of luck anyways already. But so here, for instance, maybe try to see it as an upbeat, you know, so that it's not always and then I think, you know, the conclusion should be, so I don't know, can you hear some levels when I play, or is it all, okay, great. Okay. So that's, you never know with, with this technology. But yeah, so that's something I would try to consider, you know. Mm-hmm. And do you want to try from the second part a bit and go on? Okay, great. Just a few things. Here, for instance, it's always as an upbeat, you know. Don't play. I can hear an accent a little bit now, so. Yeah, and then I have to say, I hate to say that, I'm very sorry, but still, the intonation, you know, sometimes is still a little bit.
I know.
Yeah. Do you want to try maybe again from? And then let's just check that maybe a little bit. Okay. It's, I don't know how you practice it, but with the chords, always try to really make sure that especially with the fourth finger, that's the weakest one, try to have a really strong contact with the string. Yeah. No? So it's always this this paradox between here, very smooth and light in the string, so that of course the sound is round and beautiful, but here it's actually quite tense, you know, because otherwise, if it's a bit loose, the intonation might suffer, you know. So try to, you know, when you practice home, to hit the string before, to really make sure that the interval is there. And I think it's as a practice exercise when you're home. If you really fix it like this, and then of course you have to release right after now, because otherwise you will be dead until the end of the movement. But try to really make sure to have this strong contact so that the intonation is really optimal, you know. Try one more time.
Yeah, sure.
Great. So the intonation was already much better, yeah? So I think, I mean, again, it's a very short meeting, so I don't know you so well yet, but it's always in Bach this question about intonation, to have moments where your hand is quite strong,
yeah,
so that you know exactly where your fingers are going, so that the intonation is perfect. And then as soon as the chord is gone, try to find spots where you can release your hand, yeah? Mm-hmm. So maybe the intonation problem could be coming from the fact that you don't release your hand enough when it's light, so to say, to play. And then when the chord is coming, you should have a lot of strength, you know, in the hand to really make sure that it's there. Yeah, so, and of course when you practice at home, really make sure to check all those chords slowly, and you know, this has in the end a lot to do with the quality of your sound, you know, because the more the more perfect your intonation is, the more you have overtones, you know, and then your sound is so rich and full, and that's actually why we want to play in tune, you know.
Yeah, by the way, talking about the chords, how do you play them? Do you play separate notes or do you play 2 and 2?
When I practice it for intonation?
No, I mean in general, when you
in this movement?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, of course there are a few ones that are a bit tricky. Here, for instance, this one I decided to play, actually, to try to play it in one.
Oh, okay.
But it's, you know, so it's, you know, it's it's always something in between. No, it's hard to find, but most of the time, of course, I break it, right? But here in that spot, it's really. I try to mix, you know, but this is a very hard spot, one has to say, for the chord to sound really beautifully. Great, and just one other small detail I was thinking about when you have this, for instance. I thought maybe you could change also the chord, because the harmony is quite surprising now, and it sounded pretty much the same. So it doesn't have to be an echo or so, but either you do, maybe you go down and then it could be something like that, you know. It could be gone down and then more, it could be a lot and then less, but something, you know, has to be
something different.
Yeah, exactly. I think that would be quite nice, right? Okay. Do you have any questions or anything in particular that you wanted to?
So far, so good.
Okay, great. So should we do a little bit of Haydn? I think you had the D major concerto, right?
Yeah.
The first movement. Great. So we still have 20 minutes, so we can do a bit of that also.
Let me take the sheet music. Just in case.
Yeah. Great, great. Why don't we work a bit on the beginning, right? So I think it's important for the listeners to know so that this concerto is for sure one of the hardest, you know, that we have in the cello repertoire, and that's also why it's being asked so often for orchestra auditions, right? So I'm sure that you're also maybe thinking, you know, already about orchestra auditions and
well, no, well, yeah, but not no.
Not no. Okay, great.
I mean, it depends.
Yeah,
it's a concept that I will for sure need in future.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Yeah. So it's we're very lucky because it's a concerto that we use in the orchestra auditions, but it's most of all a fantastic piece, actually, right? So we're very lucky to have a great concerto like this from Haydn. And so if you're not in the orchestra audition mood yet, it's great. And I'm not going to focus too much on that, because sometimes for many students that are taking auditions, there are some specific things that we need to talk about, you know, about, you know, how you want to present it to a jury, you know, where there are many different point of views, you know, on how to play Haydn nowadays, of course. So personally, what I like to do is, of course, find a sort of personal way of playing it, but I think especially for orchestra audition, it's also somehow good to show everyone that you're able to play a little bit of all of everything, you know, in terms of styles, you know. But then, of course, it's hard to make something convincing, you know. So it's quite tricky in that way. But let's just talk about the piece for now. I have the feeling, you know, that you're still a little bit working on the notes, and I think now it's really there, you know. So you could try to really focus on what you want to say now in terms of phrase, of maybe of character, so that slowly you get to the next step where you really try to inspire us, you know, with some musical ideas or with some you know, Aussage, as they say in German, you know, what you want to express. And I think in these little parts that you have played, there are already so many things to show, you know, from something extremely... Oh, sorry, I need to tune up. Okay. So... That would be actually fun to do it during an orchestra audition, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I think at the beginning, for instance, you have something extremely positive, extremely elegant, I would say, you know, and then here, something charming, something, you know, very Italian in the spirit, you know, like it's a laughter probably, right? So between these, and then, sorry. So that's the beginning, and then you have, for instance, so here is a totally different character, you know, and in terms of sound, I would maybe expect, and it doesn't have to be the whole time, of course, but to really have a sound that's really, you know, using the whole room, you know, filling the whole room, right? So then we start to have many different characters, and there are so many. That's why I love Haydn so much, you know. In 2 minutes of music, you have so much already, right? So I think that's what you should try to think about now when you practice the piece, and maybe to even write, you know, in the score. Some people do that, you know, adjectives or you know, characters that you like or that you could imagine. And then, of course, the idea is one thing, but then it has to be realized with the appropriate sound and then technique, of course, right? So I think it's nice to start from...
Detail, yeah.
Sorry, what?
A minor detail, yeah.
Exactly. But I think in your case, you should, I don't know how clear your musical ideas are yet, but I think you should start from there. What do I want to say in that bar, in that next bar, and then you try to realize it technically, and that's what we're going to do now, right? So start from the beginning again, and we'll see technically. I mean, we have 13 minutes to talk about one of the hardest concertos, but you know, I will try to be to be as efficient as I can. Good, great. About the first bar, I think you should be able to show a bit more line. It's a little bit too flat. It's a strong word, I know, but always think about phrasing, you know? Try once. I think, you know, it's really D major chord, you know. It's actually wonderful. I know that we tend to think about all the impossible things that are coming afterward, but try still to enjoy this first note as much as you can, you know. It has to give the impression that it's that the sun is shining, you know. And I have the feeling that you are already thinking, oh God, what is it going to work? What I'm going to play next, right? So try to maybe use more bow, just be free, and let us smile, you know, with this first note. Bravo! Great! Great, perfect. I thought you made a big difference already, right? So never forget that it's actually a happy beginning, a beautiful piece, and don't start to be worried too soon, right? So that's one thing. Then for the section that's coming, you should try to find fingerings where you avoid a bit more often the flageolet. I hear this slide quite often. So maybe what I do here, I try to really focus on the line, you know, that my fingerings don't interrupt the line. So here, for instance, I do. Yes, and then here I do it. But you know, if we hear the slide too often, then it starts to be, you know. So that's why I say, sorry, I stay here. I stay on the D string so that I don't have to do the jumps, you know, and then I can really focus on the line, you know. You know, so that I try to have it as legato as possible, and then here I think it's a very brilliant cadenza, you know, sort of ending. So here again, try to surprise us with a different character, you know. I don't stay too brave, you know. It's full of enthusiasm and okay, what am I going to do today? And you know, it's wake up and this kind of feeling, you know. With Haydn, very often you have this feeling of the sun is shining and the day is starting, you know. So, you know, this kind of ideas. Don't just play notes, so to say, but really try to impress us with a musical message, you know. Do you want to try?
Sorry.
Yes. Try to fill the room, you know, with a big sound. Can you try just those two notes? Exactly, yeah. I think if you go deep in the string and maybe a little bit closer to the bridge so that you really have a full sound. Yeah? I think very important in this concerto is to really have different contact points, with the bow. Because we have a little bit the tendency of thinking that, Haydn should be light, and so of course it should be, but not always, Mm-hmm. And I think it's very challenging to try to get the most out of our instrument. So if you play all the time up here, of course you won't be able to show a richer sound or a louder sound that your cello could produce, and I think here is a wonderful place to show, the richness and the deep sound of your cello, so don't be too brave, okay? And then when you start, it would be even more impressive, because before you have the low voice, ending with a great deep sound, and then this amazing, this very singing, and it's operatic, of course, right? So you should really consider it a stage where you have different characters, and that's why it's so important for you to have those clear ideas, right? Do you want to try from here?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Just make sure that the sound at the end always stays pure. It sounds a little bit forced. I think that you start actually too loud. Maybe here you could start the whole phrase and then you open and at the end don't force. So that's why it makes sense maybe to start a bit less. Why don't you try from here?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. The synchronization is not quite there yet. I'm sure you practice it like this. Yeah, with the two rhythms.
Yeah.
Great. So just keep doing it for a bit. And really, here again, really make sure that your articulation is extremely strong. So here, very smooth, light with a lot of air and direction. And here, quite the opposite, Yeah? Why don't you try once more? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think at the end, what I would suggest you, instead of have the feeling you are pressing a bit too much to make it sound louder, try to use maybe more bow so that you don't press but you see? Can you try just that upper scale? Yeah. So basically, if I zoom on this element, you should be able. Every note should have a little bit more bow, so that in the end, if you want, you can even start a bit less again, so that little bow, more. Yeah. That's the idea, right? Try once, maybe slower. Exactly. Yeah, great. Exactly. So I think it's very important. I had to practice this concerto for hours and hours, very slowly, And here again, I was trying to practice without vibrato first. So that's a little bit like Bach, what I told you. I really focus on what my bow is doing, So the position where you play is extremely important, and then those little elements when you phrase and you make a crescendo, so to say. Always try to imagine that your bow is doing the crescendo like this. So you start less, and then like this, and always light enough that the sound is never forced. Maybe only here. Maybe here, it would be nice to, even in Haydn's music, sometimes it can be a bit, like peasant or dirty, so to say, yeah. But here, of course, it should be extremely pure, right? So don't press too much and try to take more bow, yeah? Okay. Great. I'm just checking the time. Oh no, we still have some time. So. Try one more time from here. Yeah, and one more thing. Great. One more thing. If you are in a character mood, I would stay in this character. I have the feeling that the character that you have is already disappearing after a few notes. So try to. And then, so I think it's very important to if you have a sound idea, sometimes to really keep it for one bar or for a longer time, so that we really have the time to experience this new character. Yep. If you disappear too soon, I mean, you could do it another time or so, of course, but in your case, I have the feeling that it's a little bit a tendency that you have, so
perhaps, yeah.
So try again. Good. And here again, I see that you vibrate the first note. Why not? But what I want to see is I really want you to try once without vibrato and see how great and loud your sound could be without vibrato. Yes. Exactly. And then try maybe to sustain this sound then. Yeah, I think you should really relax a bit. I still hear it very strongly, and then you are a little bit, So try to, if you want, you can also take a little bit of time. It's always nice, in this kind of Baroque elements to show the steps a little bit, no? So don't rush, you have maybe more time than you think, so. Yeah, so that your hand has time to be where it should be. Yeah, try one more time from here.
As you said before.
Oh.
I let loose of the character.
Sorry, say it again.
I let loose of the character.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't hear you for a bit, so just try one more time. Yeah. Good. And here also, when you have reached this, don't play everything the same. No, I would really. Here again, what I want to have is a line, is a schwung, like a swing. Don't play too much like this. So maybe. it's actually bam 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 ba-dum. It's going to the next first beat, right? Yeah. So don't play bam 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 da bam. Yeah? I really want to hear the phrase. Can you try from here? Yeah, and then again, I would keep the character. I would keep it, all the way till the end. So that's after, the second theme is coming, and we can really hear the difference of sound, of character, Yeah? Can you try one last time from here? Look, I see that you stop a bit. No. Yeah? Keep going. Always go somewhere. Great. Okay. I think that's the least we could do for today. Thank you so much. Anyways, it's I guess we would have been seeing each other this summer, right?
I guess so.
Yeah. It would have been so nice to see you for real, but I'm glad I could get to meet you through this way, and I hope that you got now some motivation or some ideas to keep practicing.
Some ideas that I need to process in my mind.
Are you able to have classes now again, or is it?
It's still online classes.
It's still online. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we will see how long this whole thing is going, but I wish you all the very best. Anyways,
thank you.
If there is anything I can do or so, then just contact me. I would love to send you also the manuscript if you want.
Oh yeah.
From Bach, and
that'd be nice.
Yeah, we'll be in touch, and hopefully I can see you once, in real life.
Yeah.
Okay, then.
Thank you.
All the very best. Take care. Bravo. Thank you.
Thanks.